Hey gang, welcome once again to another episode of Devall's collection expansion Extravaganza, right here on ToyWorldOrder.com. I'm your host Devall, and as always this show brings to you, the fans, and those of you that enjoy watching this show, thank you very much, brings to you all the great stuff that I find in my trips to garage sales, flea markets, antique malls, auctions, eBay, and so much more. I've got awesome stuff for you today, and we're going to start with a couple of kids stuff. We're going to start with some kids books. So I've got a few kids books I want to show you, and a couple of kids meal toys that I want to show you, and then we'll move on to action figures and end out the show like we always do with board games. So let's check out these kids books. Now I found a couple of cool things. One of the things I found was a Easter poster, an Easter time poster, and I'm not sure where this came from. It did have a name written on it, but it was kind of cool. I think it used to be like it was a greeting card, but it tells a little bit of a story. And it's this kind of very cool, very fun little Happy Easter Rainbow Bright with some great artwork on it, which is kind of cool. But again, you know, apparently Uncle Steve and Aunt Lisa love me a lot. I don't have those at all, people. I don't know who they are. Anyway, other than the writing, I think I paid 50 cents for this because it was just in a random stack of books. But I'd never seen it before, and it had to have come out of a greeting card at Easter time. But something cool that I figured, well, I'll add to my collection. Why not? And I'm guessing maybe it actually is a greeting card, because it kind of, you know, it folds up like a greeting card. So very cool, some great artwork and some classic Rainbow Bright characters, and they're all celebrating Easter. So didn't know they celebrated Easter in Rainbow Land. Who knew? Move on. This is actually, we went to, I don't remember where we were at. We were in a small town south of Springfield, Illinois, and their library in this town was closed, and they were selling everything in the library. So of course we stop and dig through all the books, kids books, adult books, whatever we found, and I found a couple of former library books in kids books, and they're okay shape, but I didn't have them, so, and they were cheap. They were like a quarter piece. But I found the Care Bear book of bedtime poems, and as you can see, of course, it's been, you know, when was it last checked out? It was last checked out on March 17th of 2003. But a cute little book from the Weekly Readers Book Club in the 80s. And, you know, great artwork in there. Just classic artwork. Again, kids books, this was bought like last year. That shows you just how far behind I am on showing a lot of this stuff. So, but very neat. The next library book I found was goes with the first thing I showed you, which was the Rainbow Bright Easter poster, and that is Rainbow Bright Gets Rescued. This very cool hardback Rainbow Bright, and unfortunately, it's kind of, I don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of fallen apart a little bit. It's, so you can see there, the spine is kind of beat, but for what it was worth for a quarter, other than some writing inside the front cover, the pages themselves are in really great condition overall. And again, a lot of times with kids books, it's not quite the condition, because eventually I'll find a better version of this, but for a quarter, who can pass that up, right? One last kids book. This is something I didn't have, and it was an old golden book, and I actually don't have a lot of books based on this brand, but I found this fun Gem Dance Club Magic book, which is kind of cute. Again, artwork, awesome. Look at it, it's freaking cool. It's awesome artwork. You know what's funny is the last couple of years I've seen there's a company in New York City that sells lots of kids books and kids coloring books, and they sell original artwork for a lot of these books. And I've tried to bid a few times on some of this stuff, like GoBots and a few other things, And of course, once they hit about, I don't know, 200, I stop. And once they go up to about 600, I'm like, oh no, there's no way. Fun little book though, just a little cute little storybook that tells of Jim and the Holograms battling the misfits at a Magic Dance Club. And of course the girls are dressed up in country garb. Kind of neat. And again, Jim, even though it just had a new line of toys from, I believe, Integrity Dolls, Jim doesn't get enough love anymore, and it's in dire need of an actual relaunch. So maybe we'll get one, maybe we won't, but in the meantime, awesome stuff. Let's move on. So this next item was actually a McDonald's Happy Meal in the, I want to say sometime in the 80s, early, mid 80s, late 80s. But McDonald's did a series of Berenstain Bears, and they were kind of cool because they had flocked heads and they came with little vehicles. But Carrie and I had found a few of these Berenstain Bears over the past year or so, never complete. And then just recently at King County, I found a couple more and some pieces. But again, we were missing like Papa Bear, Brother Bear, Mama Bear, Brother Bear Scooter. We were missing lots of stuff. Well, this one of the garage sales, one of the flea markets here in town, we actually went to, and I found in this guy's booth a bag of all 4 of them complete. And even though Carrie doesn't like to buy duplicates of stuff, I convinced her we should buy those because it just completes them all out, and they were $1. So of course we got Sister Bear with her little flocked head and the heads move in her wagon. Sister Bear in her wagon. We got Brother Bear on his scooter, which is kind of neat. We got Mama Bear in her shopping basket, and Papa Bear in him's wheelbarrow. Look at him's wheelbarrow. These were fun. I had these when I was a kid. I had all 4 of them. Then again, my grandfather used to take me to McDonald's quite often, just about every other day or so. But I was an active child, so all of that stuff about child obesity went one ear and out the other in the 80s because we played outside and did other stuff. Anyway. These are cool. If you don't have these in your collection, if you're collecting Happy Meal toys, these are probably some that you might want to hunt down and find because they are pretty relatively easy to find. But trying to find them in decent shape without a lot of dirt or nastiness on them is kind of a challenge. But these are in pretty good shape, and these will replace the ones that we already have, or I'll just switch out the accessories with the better ones if we have such a thing, and these will probably get tossed in a basket for the time being. So very cool. Love this line. This line's awesome. I've been sitting on this stuff for since last summer, and I just never got around to showing it. I don't know why. But at a little garage sale last year, and I think we talked about it early on in the flea market finds, that Pixel Dan and I had gone to, and this lady had 2 children. She had one in the 80s and one in the 90s, so she had about a 10-year difference in gap in children ages, and she had a bunch of stuff, and the kids, just a lot of stuff. They either never give the kids or they never open them, and a couple of things were some Harry Potter items from Mattel for Sorcerer's Stone from the first film. And one of them was this very cool Harry Potter Levitating Challenge electronic sound and action game. Why this isn't with the board games at the end? Well, it's not technically a board game, and it's not technically an action figure. It kind of falls in between. But it was sealed. It's never been opened, and it's got a ton of stuff. It's got 10 interchangeable obstacles, 200 maze combinations. It has this little ball that blasts with air that you guide with the little dial and stuff, and Harry in the middle waves his wand and moves. Kind of a neat thing, and I haven't decided if I'm going to open it and put it together and display it or play with it, because honestly this thing is noisy when it's on. I've heard it before. It's loud, so it's really loud. I don't want to upset the animals or anything, so this might just stay in the box for the time being. But very cool Harry Potter item, and I think these are still going for relatively cheap if it's something you're interested in. I just stumbled upon it and was like, oh, how much for that? $5? I'll buy it. And of course it had never been opened. I mean, I opened it to check it, of course, but this tape was still sealed. So this is a very cool thing. And again, I don't know if I'm going to actually open it or just leave it in the box. I haven't decided. So maybe I'll follow you up with that when I make a decision. Let's move on. This one, while not technically a board game or technically an action figure, this actually came out with a Sorcerer's Stone, and it was for use with all the Wizard collection figures from Mattel. and this is actually the cool version. This was the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone Power Caster, which was the electronic spell casting, which was the playset for Harry Potter. And of course, you could use this for all of the Wizard collection figures, which were very cool. And they came with these little. You could buy these separately. These gems, these Wizard casting gems, and they went into the machine here. And gave you different powers and different spells, and you were able to fight your enemy better with them. So, you know, this actually you can play without figures. This actually has 2 chipboard figures in there, and basically what would happen is when you want to match your opponent would launch off there when they were attacked, and had this really cool screen that has special effects that fly across it. Neat item. I don't have any of the Wizard collection figures from Mattel from this line. I have them for the second film, which actually were better figures, but they might be figures that I try to find eventually and hunt down, because I'd like to put this playset out and put them with it. So again, this was another one of those items at that garage sale a year ago with me and Pixel Dan. That lady had it, was sealed, and she wanted $5 for it. So I'm not going to pass a deal up like that ever. So home with me it came. Let's move on. One tiny odd item before I hit the action figures and then the 2 board games to end out this episode is in the 80s, Kings Island, which was a theme park, had in Ohio actually licensed the Hanna-Barbera characters, and they had Hanna-Barbera characters in the park. And Carrie and I found this in an antique store for $1, and it's got a little bit of staining and a little bit of weirdness to it. But I'd never seen it before, and it was kind of cool for I think the $3 we paid for it. But it's this very cool Kings Island, Ohio pennant with Hanna-Barbera characters, of course. You've got Pebbles, Fred, Barney, Bam Bam, Scooby, and Scrappy Doo. This is really neat. I remember I had a bunch of these from when I was a kid, not from Kings Island, but from stuff like Ice Capades with, you know, or the DC superheroes meet Hanna-Barbera stage show that toured, because we went to all of them that came to Springfield, and I had a bunch of these, and of course they all got ruined. But this was fun, and I don't know if I'm going to pin it up or just put it in the case or try to find a frame to fit this. But I mean, it's got some really great artwork, and it's something that you just don't see anymore every day. So very, very cool. With that out of the way, let's move on to what everyone loves, which is action figures. I got a couple of cool carded stuff from the 80s. First up is another Kenner line, much like the last episode with RoboCop. I love Kenner, and one of the Kenner lines they did was actually Police Academy, based on the Police Academy animated show, which in turn was based on the R-rated series of films. Notice how there's a lot of R-rated films in the 80s that they made cartoons and toys for. It's the 80s for you. What do you do? But I found this awesome Larvell Jones and Bullhorn mint on card. I actually have a loose Larvell Jones, but I'm missing his Bullhorn as well as his walkie-talkie, his radio that makes weird noises. So I have him loose, but I was like, oh, a carded figure version of this for $5. I'll buy it. Why not? This is a great line. This is another one of those great lines that never gets enough love, and had some really, really cool character designs in it based on the characters in the cartoon series, and some really cool action features, actually. I loved this line when I was a kid. I had Carrie Mahoney, I had Larvell, I had Zed with the police skateboard, because Zed was a bobblehead and his shorts would fall down. I mean, it's really a fun line. This was a nice find for me, and I'm glad and happy to add it to the wall with all the rest of my mint and card stuff. Next up is a line from Galoob in the 80s. Basically, they took some classic superheroes in the 80s, such as Flash Gordon, the Phantom, Mandrake the Magician, and of course pitted them against villains like Being the Merciless and such. And I have a couple of figures from this line, and it's actually the line is Defenders of the Earth from Galoob, based on the animated series. And I have a Flash Gordon loose complete. I have a Ming the Merciless loose complete. I have a Phantom who's missing his whip and his gun. But the few figures that have escaped me was Garax, who was the big white guy, the big white villain robot. Lothar, who was this very, very cool, very cool figure, and Mandrake the Magician, who usually goes for a ridiculous amount of money because of who he is and what he is. But I managed on eBay probably about 3 months ago or so, there was an auction for this awesome carded Mandrake the Magician from Galoob, and it looked in beautiful condition, and nobody bid on it. And I wanted him for 10 bucks, and usually he goes for upwards of 100. And when he arrived, I was pleasantly surprised to find out just how good shape this card was. It's even completely unpunched. It's got some clearance stickers, it's got some old Shopco clearance tags on it, but I kind of was hoping the card was beat up because I wanted a Mandrake to open. But unfortunately, this Mandrake is not getting open because this card is gorgeous. So I'll continue to hunt for another one maybe down the road, or a loose one complete that I can add to my collection that's on my shelf. But Defenders of the Earth, again, another line and another series that, while not huge, there wasn't a lot that they made of this line. It was one series and 5 vehicles, 6 vehicles actually. It's a line that just doesn't get any love, and if you're a toy collector and you're looking for a very unique line to collect that is small and relatively easy to obtain all of for affordable prices, this is the line you want to look for, or at least keep your eyes out for, because if you can find them all on card and for a decent amount of money, do it, because this line is great. It's a great line. Let's move on. Let's wrap this episode up the way I like to do it, with some board games. The first one I found is this awesome board game from the 80s called Shrieks and Creaks, and it actually is a talking board game in the vein of the old 80s cassette players. It has this little speaker that you hook up to a tape player, and then you put the tape in, and everybody plays, and when you get to a certain point, you put your figure thing in there, and it'll speak to you and say stuff to you. Shrieks and Creaks is kind of a tough game to find complete, and I managed to find this one complete and only pay $5 for it. And you know, it's got some writing on it, it's got some writing on the back, but Shrieks and Creaks is a classic game from the 80s that is kind of a cult classic, kind of favorite of horror fans, just because it features some great horror characters. So this was a awesome find for me, and I am excited to eventually play this game. And yes, I do have a tape player, so I will be playing this eventually. Yes. Let's move on to the last item on this episode. Last item for this episode of Collection Expansion Extravaganza is one more board game based on a classic Mad Magazine creation called Spy vs. Spy. And from Milton Bradley comes the Spy vs. Spy board game. This board game is awesome. The gentleman in Salisbury, Illinois had a couple of these board games, and we looked through one of them and it was missing a lot of stuff. And then I found this second one underneath a stack of other stuff that was complete and in much better shape box-wise. And this is a really neat game. Basically, it's Spy vs. Spy, just like you would think. You have bombs that could blow you up. It looks like a fun, awesome game for 1 to 4 players from the 80s. If you're a board game collector and you're looking for some great games to collect, this is one of them. Shrieks and Creaks is one of them. If you can find a Spy vs. Spy, I suggest picking it up for a decent amount. I think I paid $12 for this, like $12.50 or something like that. So this was a great find in an awesome shape, and I cannot wait to play this game because it looks so much fun. So much fun. There you go, guys. That brings us to the end of this episode of Devall's Collection Expansion Extravaganza. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, just hit the subscribe button. If you're watching this on ToyWorldOrder.com, do me a favor, go to YouTube, go to youtube.com/ToyWorldOrder and hit subscribe. That would be great. You're helping us out by doing that, and I appreciate it, because without you, the fans watching this show, we don't do these type of programs. They wouldn't exist, and you wouldn't get to see all this awesome, cool stuff. So thank you, and make sure you support us. Go to ToyWorldOrder.com. There's a great set of forums at ToyWorldOrder.com/forums, and you can sign up there and join in conversation with a great cast of characters over there at the forum. So make sure you do that and hang out for a while, talk it up. You can follow me on Twitter at PuppetDevall, and you can follow me, or rather you can follow the site at ToyWorldOrder. So make sure you do that. And of course on ToyWorldOrder.com we got lots of great stuff, such as Dave and Devall's Toys and Collectibles podcast every Thursday, Married to the Collection podcast, as well as some great original programming coming later this year that is going to hopefully knock the socks off of toy fans everywhere. So be looking forward to that. And until next time, gang, keep digging, because you never know what you might find. Take care, gang.